Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Asim and today we're going to talk about trufflehog. Probably a lot of you would have used this tool in your bug bounty or maybe in your organizations. It's used for secret scanning in Git repositories. As of now it was used for only Git scanning. But today I'm going to talk about the new version that's going to release soon, or probably by the time this video is live it would already have been released. So I'd been in talks with the author or the creator of this tool. Now he runs a company called trufflesecurity. So he's gonna be with us in the second half of this video. So I'll be taking a short interview of him as well. Before that, he has given me the chance to review this tool. This is a new version that has a lot of features than the previous one. The earlier one, if you would have used, it had only 42 scanning options, like 42 different types of keys could be scanned. And right now it scans over 600 types of keys. Moreover, that's not the final kicker. The important thing is it also verifies those. So earlier what used to happen was when you found a secret or a Git token or whatever kind of secret you found, you had to manually verify it whether it was actually exploitable or not, something like that. Earlier it was only dependent on regexes. Now each of these 600 keys have its own verifier that verifies from the service that it's using. So that's a great saver and it's very easy to use. It would again be an open source thing. Right now it's not the code is not public right now, but the Docker images are, so you can straight away pull it and test it on your own pace. I'll be showing you a demo of that, and if you have any questions, you can put it in chat and I would delegate it to the creator of it. So yeah, let's start with this. So if you follow any news related to cybersecurity, you would have seen that a lot of data breaches are happening. If you see the Verizon 2021 data breaches report, investigation report, you would see that 61% of the data breaches involved credential leaks. So what happens is some credentials get leaked from somewhere or the other. Let's say a public database has been, or database, a MongoDB has been public or something like that. And if once the attackers get hand to these credentials, they use these credentials to attack different other servers and other organizations. If you see the risk matrix, so I would consider it as a high because the impact is very severe. Let's say an attacker gets hold of your AWS credential or a root account programmatic AWS access keys. So they don't need anything else. Using that root credential, they can use any resource on your AWS. So that's why it's a very high criticality, and the ease of finding it is easy because a lot of time these credentials get leaked on GitHub or let's say on Docker containers, on Pastebin, a lot of these places. And even if those have not been used, then there are places, let's say your website has been compromised. So once the user's credentials get leaked from those, you can easily find that these are being circulated online as well. You can see collection of 1.4 billion plain text leaked passwords found circulating online. There are a lot of these news. That's some news. Let's go to the repository. So this is the trufflehog repository that's public right now. There's a version 2 that's about that we're going to talk about. So this version mentioned that searches through Git repository for secret, digging deep into commit history and branches. This is effective at finding secrets accidentally committed. So it just not only scans the files like any other scanner, it also checks for commit history. So let's say someone accidentally committed a secret previously, let's say 10 commits before, and then in some later commit they found that okay, we need to remove it, but the actual secret was not rotated. So this trufflehog would still be able to do that. That's why it's very powerful, and it has been used in I know a lot of people who have been using it for their bug bounty as well as in their organization in a professional capacity, running it in their own scanner on some kind of automation. They are trying to do this. Till now it had only this 42 regex, 40 regexes for different kinds of things. So what it used to do, it used to run a regex and then it used to check for those. But right now they have 600 of these, and all of these can be verified. Even if just the regex match, that is not sufficient, they would also verify that whether that key or that Slack token, that AWS token is actually running or not. So they would be using the Slack API or AWS API or the respective services API and try to verify that token without doing any harm to the without doing any CRUD operation using that AWS using that API keys. So this is the trufflehog 2. It was updated a day ago. Trufflesecurity. There's the pull command. I have these commands mentioned here. Let me just straight away show you a demo on the terminal here. So Docker run platform. I'm running this on an M1 laptop, so that's why I have to add this platform Linux AMD64. Temporary mounting, truffle security, and this help command. So your trufflehog is a tool for finding credentials. These are different flags. I ran the help flag. You can also run it in debug mode. The different credentials finding method that it has. One is the git, and there's this github. So git and github differs by the way that github is only specific for GitHub, whereas git could be any private git repository or SVN repository, any of those kinds of things. So you just need to supply the URI. For GitLab, they have also mentioned then you need to supply the token as well. Even for GitHub, let's say if you want to do a private scanning, you can do that. They have the option for that. Earlier, this file system was very much required because a lot of time these you needed to scan something in the particular directory or folder that might not be a Git repository. So it was missing from the earlier version, but right now they have added it straight away here. So you can supply the directory path into your local machine or maybe wherever you're running a VPS or something, and you can find credentials onto that. There's this feature for S3, so you can directly, if there's a S3 public bucket, you can straight away point it to that and can find credentials for that. I have created a S3 bucket and a GitHub repository, so I would be showing a demo for both of these. So just sit tight and yeah. Let's say I have to scan a particular repo. So this is my repo. Where did I save that? Yeah, this is the repo, secrets public repo. There's this AWS credentials. These are valid credentials I have generated using Canary tokens. I have pointed it to a temporary email, this particular email. You can see this has already been triggered. It was triggered because it was put into a public Git repo and it was already been scanned by a lot of these scanners, even GitHub scanners as well. So that's why I've already got a lot of these mails. So let me just try to point it to this. So this is the command, git, and then the repo URL. You can also use the GitHub one, that's the same thing for this. So see, this is a verified result, type AWS, and this is the key. The commit mention is also there. I just wanted to show you how this is actually being verified. So this is the mail, and if you see this details here, you would see that AWS SDK was used of the Golang version. So this trufflehog new version is written in Golang, and they use AWS SDK to actually send a STS token just to verify that it's an actual key that's there. So let me show you how that works. I have the video from the owner here. So yeah, so this is the new repo, and he has sent us a screencast. So that's what it is. In the pkg folder, they have these detectors, and in the detector there are a lot of detectors. So we would be showing the AWS one just to verify how that's being detected. Yeah, here's the AWS one. So they have this aws.go. You can see the AWS SDK Go V2 version. So that's the one we saw here in this email as well, that AWS SDK Go version 2. So first the key is being checked, that it must be valid key using the regex pattern. So there's this function caller identity, which is using SCS is security token service. So it's using that to get the get the caller's identity. So there's this command svc.get caller identity, which verifies the caller whether it's a valid caller or not. So that's what the detector is trying to do, which is a legitimate one. I mean, that's how a manual person who is manually got the keys would be able to verify these tokens. Let me just try to edit this file and create a copy of this with a not valid thing. Let's say H, and then I put A here, and F I put B here. So this is not a valid token. Let me just put it here, not working. And now try to commit the changes, and now let's see what the results would be here. So you can see verified result was again the HN one, and the not found unverified result was this HA one. So this is still being shown because it's matching the regex pattern, but they are not able to verify it because the response was not, response was not good. So let me show you, if I to show only verified, I think that was the thing, only verified. Yeah, this is the flag. So I've added this flag here towards the end of this. So it would only show the first one, found verified result, not the second one. So this might be useful when you are automating something and you want the whole only verified results. And there's also an output JSON flag. So let's say you are trying to consume it into your ELK stack or some other kind of analytics tool where you are pushing it through a JSON. So you get this into a JSON, and then maybe you can use it in further automation using some other scripts or something and push all these details to that. So that is one thing. Now let me just show you if how you would be doing it on an S3 bucket. So I have a S3 bucket, a public bucket 21, and this is the command. So before that, if you have a private Git repository, you can pass it like this, username colon password. So that's how they would be able to scan a private repository. Or the other thing you can do is, if you don't want to pass username password, what you can do is you can download it and run this file system thing, this file system flag, and point it to the directory where you want to run this particular, where you have that particular private repository cloned. So let me run this for this public bucket. So later s3 bucket equal to pub bucket. So pub bucket 21 is the public bucket that I have. It has this credentials file, but directly downloads it. But you can see that in this credentials file, if even the downloaded one, you can see there's this HN credential and the 0f1, which is a valid one. And here in the terminal, you can see that it has found the link where the credential is and the raw result. So it has also verified that. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. I hope you liked this. And now let's move on to the second part, where I'll be talking to the creator and he would be taking a few questions. If you have any further questions, please put it down into the comment section. Hey, hi Dylan. What's up? How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Great to meet you. Great to hop on a call with you.
I was looking forward to this, and yeah, I've been talking about your tool for the past like 10-15 minutes now. It has been wonderful, and like I was going through a demo and going through a different configuration and everything. I just wanted to give the viewers actual, like from the stage, from the horse's mouth, actual what it is behind, what's the motivation behind it all. So before I go into all that, I would like to have an intro from yourself, like what do you do, who are you, and everything, so that people know and get to know the creator.
Yeah, so my name's Dylan. I'm a co-founder of Trufflesecurity Co., which is a company that builds awesome open source technology. And so we're building on top of a tool that I originally wrote back in 2016 called trufflehog. And for the last year, we've basically been rewriting the entire scanning engine for trufflehog, which you've had the chance to play around with, and we're so super excited to be able to give back to the community and share soon with everyone, and not just with our early testers like yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I've been a very early user of your tool, even like the trufflehog, the earlier version itself, and I've been super amazed by it. We have been using it in automation in our previous organization, and that being an open source project, that has helped us, because when we wanted to tweak it ourselves, we could have done it. So that's really awesome. Yeah. The next question that I had was, what's the motivation? Like, you already have a version one of it, so what's changing, and what was the motivation that you felt that okay, a version two needs to be there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, secrets detection is not an easy problem to solve. And so when I wrote the original version one, I wrote it when I was like unemployed on a couch. I knocked it out in a weekend. It wasn't like a very sophisticated tool. So it wasn't perfect at finding secrets. It had some false positive issues. And so what we did with version two is we now support more than 10 times the number of secrets the original tool supported. And for every single one of those secrets, like I think you covered a little bit earlier, we're now able to instantly check to see whether or not those keys work against like the APIs they belong to and stuff like that. And so because we added those checks in, we don't have false positives anymore, because every single time we find a key and it flashes green, that's because we've tried it out. We know it works.
That has been really helpful, because earlier we used to make our own custom checks and then we used to verify whether that works or not. And I think every organization who does it, they have to do it manually or they add some automation. So building it itself in the secret detection has definitely helped a lot. So yeah, I was reading an article on your blog. Let me just share the screen. You might be able to see this. It was something about driftwood. I thought I should ask you itself, like what this driftwood is, and if you want to talk about what this is.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a technology that we actually built natively into the new trufflehog secrets detection engine, but it also exists as a standalone project, which is what this blog post is talking about. So you can find this on our GitHub at trufflesecurity/driftwood. Basically, what it does is we went out and found billions of public keys that pair with private keys that can perform sensitive operations. So you can imagine an example would be like a public key that pairs with an SSL private key. We know that public key pairs with a sensitive private key because that SSL private key can be used to encrypt SSL traffic. So where did we get those keys from? Well, two places. The first place is we went to certificate transparency, which is a public ledger that all certificate authorities have to log all certificates that they create in this ledger, which means every single website that uses SSL, internal or external, if it's signed by a real certificate authority, that certificate is logged in this public ledger. So we were able to grab all of the public keys for all of SSL internet wide signed by certificate authorities and ingest them. So those were that's our first data source. So if we ever find a private key, we can instantly say whether or not it's being used for SSL anywhere. And the second data source is we went to github.com. And as it turns out, have you ever I mean, like, this is a question to you personally now. Have you ever uploaded like one of your SSH public keys to GitHub?
Yeah, yeah. For like Git cloning
Yeah,
as
of course.
a
Most developers, right? Most developers take
and there's an
their
endpoint as well. I think you can get the SSH key for public user for GitHub using the API, I think.
That's exactly right. So most developers will take the SSH key on their laptops and they'll upload it to GitHub, which means, GitHub has most public keys for most developers' laptops. And then, like you just mentioned, can we go to your username, like github.com/your user here, and then just at the end put .keys right after your username. GitHub actually allows you to download those SSH keys for all of the developers. So it looks like you've got 3 keys here from 3 different machines, and anyone in the world can go and download them. So what we did was, for all 34 million GitHub users, we actually downloaded every single SSH key that anyone had ever uploaded to the platform, which we think is pretty representative of all of the SSH keys that developers use to go about their day. And we ingested all of those into Driftwood as well. So if we ever find a private key, we can instantly say, is this being used for a sensitive SSH operation, or is this being used for TLS? And that allows us to get extremely high fidelity for RSA private keys. And the reason that's important, when we talk about API keys, like an Amazon key or something like that, the ratios we find for live keys to inactive keys is sometimes like 1 in 20, right? It's most of the Amazon keys that you find aren't going to be active, right? So that's why we added that check that I mentioned before. But for private keys, the ratio is worse. It's like 1 in 100 or 1 in 500. It's like most of the private keys you find are just going to be test keys that people generated that don't actually go anywhere. So when you scan large organizations, like if you point the new trufflehog engine at a big org, you might find thousands of private keys, and the vast majority of them are test keys that don't go anywhere. So that's really tricky, both as a researcher or as a company, for you trying to figure out, well, now I have thousands of keys. What am I supposed to do with them? So we added these checks in, so it'll instantly say which ones are the most sensitive that we know for certain can be used to encrypt sensitive data and do sensitive operations.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've never seen anyone doing it. I personally, I didn't know about this thing before I read your blog, and that's how I got to know, okay, you can download keys for any developer online on GitHub. So is it something on GitLab as well, or other like source control, source code repository, or is it just for GitHub?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Driftwood in general, today we ingest from those 2 data sources, but we plan to add much more data sources in the future. So GitLab's a good one. GPG keys are another one we'd like to add. We may even add Bitcoin keys in the future, because everything's on that public ledger, so we can just ingest everybody's public wallets. And if we ever find a key, we can instantly say whether or not it pairs with anybody's Bitcoin wallet. So keep your eyes on Driftwood. In the future, we're going to ingest much more sources of data, and we're going to get much better at telling whether or not private keys can go to GitLab or GPG or Bitcoin or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think another place, if Keybase allows, I think you can also get keys from there as well. Like Keybase is also another place.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's a good point.
This looks really promising, I think. So, like, what's the future roadmap for Trufflehog? Like, how do you see it panning out between researchers, bug bounty hunters, and other people?
Yeah, so what I love about open source is everybody can collaborate and build the tool together. So the first thing that we're going to do is when we open source this new engine, we're going to have really clear contributor guidelines for how people can add new secrets. So today, I think we support something like 500 secrets, 600 secrets in that ballpark. We're going to put together clear contributor guidelines. So if you run the tool and you find there's one that we're missing, you'll be able to easily add new support. And so that's going to be a super exciting thing that I'm looking forward to, is just everybody adding every secret anyone can ever think of and having this library be a really close to complete library of all the different secret types. That way, when you point this thing at anything, whether it's an S3 bucket or a file system or a GitHub repo, it has like all of the juicy content. Another interesting thing that we added support for as well is the ability to check not just API keys, not just private keys, but also some passwords we detect. So like basic auth, we're able to extract the URL and the password and the username, try them against the endpoint, and then try a fake password and see if there's a difference in response codes. So if we get a 200 with the password and then the fake password gives us a 400, then we know that we have a valid basic auth password. Another one, database credentials. We can find a database password, and then we can find the URL for that database all in the same file. Well, then we connect to that database, Postgres, Redis, whatever it is, with that password and see whether or not the connection is successful. So I'm just really, I get all excited about the idea for all these different credential types that the old engine didn't support. We're now building support for it, and we're building creative ways to check whether or not those credentials are still active. When we give that back to the community, I'm really excited to see all of the creative ways that all of the users of trufflehog then come up with to add support for even more credentials.
Definitely. I would definitely want to be the initial contributors once you open source it up. So do you have any plans, like any timeline when we plan to open source this project?
Yeah, I mean, it should be open source by the time this video comes out. That's my guarantee. So
Uh,
if you just go to trufflesecurity/trufflehog, the repo will be up and you'll be able to use the new tool.
Everyone, yeah, I would be adding the links in the description, also in the comment section. So definitely check this out and see the developer guidelines. Try and get your hands dirty with open source. If it's a first project, maybe definitely see the contributing guidelines and how that's gonna happen. Yeah, I think that was a lot about trufflehog and something out of your work. What do you do apart from your work there? I think something interesting story while maybe developing this tool, or some community interactions that you had, something that you want to talk about outside of this project, something like that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I started this open source company with two co-founders about a year ago, and one of those co-founders got me into crab fishing. And so basically, I don't know if you've ever been crab fishing before, but we take these huge hoop nets and we throw them into the ocean. And then like 15 minutes later, we pull up dinner, like big giant crabs. It's a lot of fun. It's super easy to get into, and I'm glad he showed me. I'm glad he showed me how to do that. And so now on the weekends, sometimes we head over to the ocean and we go crab fishing.
Definitely, that's something to look up to. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you for your time. It was really interesting, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to try it out before it was about to release. Yep.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for all your early feedback, and I think it's really helped the product, and we'll be able to share all the bug fixes and all of the things you're able to improve with the community as soon as we open source it.
Thank you.